Let's just go.
We
Let's
can
go.
go.
You're
Let's do
already
it.
you're already digging in. What's up, everybody? Good morning. Hey, Mama Corey. Hey, Lisa. Lisa, I promise you, our conversation ain't got deep yet. And I got Thomas Cotton in the building, and I've already, if you've seen the topic, we're talking about changing the system. He's like, oh man, I done wrote 4 papers about this. So he hits me with there's no change in the justice system. We have to change the political system first. All right, so change the political. I do have some news stories, but we're gonna dig into this a little bit, and then I may parlay like a break for some news stories. So change. Okay, so first we have to change the political system, and what does that look like?
So when we start thinking about the justice system, we think of being arrested and going through the
Incarceration, right?
carceral system
Yeah.
and everything else. But that's just the arm of discipline. It's the arm of
Right.
arrest. It's the arm of I'm the part that's going to hold up the law.
Right.
And so we have to realize that when we're looking at this justice system, we're thinking, okay, can we change the justice system?
Right.
Yeah, you can change certain things. And I'm not saying don't try. There are people out there doing great work that are making changes. But sometimes the changes that we're making aren't making the impact that we're looking to make. And so you can close the jail down. Well, they're
Right.
going to open another one. You can, so I am trying to overhear the chair at the same time, and my computer is now pulling up Facebook and not letting me close it out. There we go.
All right.
So you hear that?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? That's just the devil, the enemy.
Yes, it is. That's what
I,
the
I'll
enemy.
never, I'll never have any problems with my computer until today.
Look at that. You're trying to tell the truth. They're trying to stop you.
Man, I'm telling you, man.
Man.
All right. So, anyways, sorry about that, y'all. Good morning, everybody. By the way, I'm not liking and sharing right now because my computer's tripping. Anyways, but you can like and share this broadcast. When we start thinking about the justice system, the political system drives the laws, the rules, but
Right.
we also have to look at the influence that popular society has upon the justice system. So, of course, when we start looking at the way things are going, so you brought up how they treated Trump,
Right.
and there's a more humane way of handling things.
Right.
The justice system is going to do what the justice system does.
Right.
It is a way of continuing slavery. I'll just say that. I'll put it out there.
Right. That is true.
If we start to look at this, most of us have heard about the 13th Amendment and the abolishment of slavery, kind of, and as long as there's a loophole where people can still be slaves, then that's a problem.
Right.
And as long as you take advantage of that system of slavery, and you allow people to still be incarcerated, to work for less.
Right.
That's right. You know what I'm saying? You know my point. But as long as you still have this system that takes advantage of that loophole, then that's going to be a problem, because when you're talking about dollars and you're talking about the money that's generated through things like Unicor. If you don't know what that is, go to bop.gov. Make sure you put the www in front of the www.bop.gov. At the bottom, there'll be a little link that says Unicor. Click on Unicor, and that's going to talk about prison industry.
Wow.
And one of the things about prison industry is it makes money, right? And not only does it make money, it makes products. So, and it makes a profit.
Right.
And so what you see is these major things in our country that need to be made being farmed out to prison industry. And as they're farmed out to prison industry, it allows us to compete in the global market because we got labor that is inexpensive, that competes with other countries.
Okay.
That's my opinion now. I haven't done all the research on it, but I mean, I'm capable of putting two and two together,
Right.
I've always taught 2 and 2 is 4. You want to multiply it by 2 or add it? It's still 4. Anyways, and so we start thinking about this prison and this carceral system.
Right.
When the laws are there, then the judges must follow. The people who enforce these laws must follow. Everybody must follow.
Right.
And then obviously we know that the police are, you know, they can be kind of different toward people of color.
Right.
When they go into certain neighborhoods, when they're pulling one person over, let's say they're pulling a black person over, you know, their fingers are a little bit more itchier than if they're pulling somebody else because of this bias that they already have, this implicit bias within it. And so the system creates that bias. And so again, trying to change our justice system is a significant uphill battle, because if we think about the history of this country, United States of America, we have never gotten it right when it comes to, you know, how we treat certain people.
Right. I got you.
We've never gotten it right. And so to say that we're going to make this change on the justice system, that's a fight that a lot of people would have to really shift the way they see life in America and really call it out and say something's wrong. And a lot of times too much pride doesn't allow us to say we're wrong, especially when we're supposed to be one of the most powerful countries in the world, you know?
Right. So it's kind of a shift in perspective of the criminal system. And I get what you're saying. So the policies from the politicians has to start at the top, and has to be able to change it, to reshape the infrastructure. And you're right. There's a lot of money. You got Unicor, and these folks, if they are making a profit, I'm sure they're taking the same profit and then funneling it back into the political system to ensure that what they're doing is protected. You know, their low cost labor is protected. So it's changing that mindset. So is it, how deep is it though? So hey, good morning, Deborah. How deep is it? And what I mean, is it just about changing players, you know, to moving old people out, moving new people in, talking about politics as well? Is this more of a national thing, or is it more of a local thing? You know, because we do have federal, but we do have state government as well.
So there's an influence. You know, you can see that the local government usually tries to push back as much as they can on the federal government in areas. We'll use marijuana, for example. Marijuana is legal in certain states, right?
Yes.
But it's still federally illegal.
Right.
So don't get it twisted. Don't think that because it's legal someplace you can do something that's going to break a federal law and get away with it. And so there's these ideas that, you know, state laws can trump federal laws in certain ways and vice versa. But when we start thinking about, you know, the changes that need to be made, the influence, where do we get our influences from? Do we get them from the state level or from the federal level? Most of the time, we don't even know what's happening in certain states. Matter of fact, I did a comparison this week on some of the things in California versus New York. And, you know, just even the way that judges can sentence people is different between the two states. And if you just go across the different states, like in New York, I can't remember. I just wrote the paper and turned it in.
Did the research?
I just did the research, got the information coming in. I can't remember which one, but I think New York, the judge can make the decision on their own on what they want to sentence on. And then in California, there's a guideline. There's a 5 to whatever, you know, the judge has to, you know, fit into this space. And so when you start to look at how things are done at the state level, it's always different. When you start looking at sentences that are handed out for certain crimes, so people can't just be like, you know, oh, well, if I commit this crime, I'm gonna get this amount of time, you know, and they lived in California all their life and moved to Atlanta and thought
they thought they understood the system.
You don't understand, you know. the best way to avoid that is not to do the crime.
Right. Exactly.
And to be honest, that's where I fall in line with this. Like trying to change our justice system is going to be like one of these puzzles that you're putting together, but you're missing three pieces. You're never going to finish that puzzle because you don't have all the pieces.
Right.
And trying to figure out how they all go together is kind of awkward because you're still missing these pieces. And it's like, man, I don't have this corner right here. Where is it at?
Right.
That's what fixing the justice system's like. If we can focus on people and people making better decisions and helping that part of the system, the social side of the justice system, then we can possibly make a bigger change in the justice system. Because as long as there's not people getting incarcerated, then they have to start making adjustments within the system that they have. But as long as they can continue the cycles that are going on through generations and generations of people being incarcerated, then they're going to continue to build these prisons. They're going to continue to have the school to prison pipeline. And I'll talk a little bit about that because there's some thoughts behind that aren't quite correct, in my opinion.
Okay.
But we have to start to look at how do we stop the flow within the justice system. If you cut off the source of of continuing to have the police, then if this source is getting cut off, then the police force has to go backwards. If you're constantly the prison numbers are going down, then they have to start closing prisons, right? So
right.
There's the prison systems currently hold about a little less than 2 million people right now. But it's fluctuated in the last 20, 30 years between 2 million, 2.2 million, and a little under 2 million to 2.2 million. It's just fluctuating.
Right.
And as we start thinking about, okay, yeah, we can lower it a few 100,000. That's not touching anything because again, how many people are getting arrested every year? Over 7 million people get arrested every year. So you start thinking about the transition of the people who are in prison, them coming out and then replacing them. There's just all these different things. But if we can again lower that number of people being arrested, and then we start lowering the number of people that are in jail, then that's important. So people need to realize as long as you put yourself in position for the man, I'm just kidding, for the carceral system to make a decision for your life, you're at their mercy. So if you decide I am going to do something, I'm gonna ride dirty. Okay. Just gonna ride dirty. But then if you get pulled over, now whatever they decide they're gonna do to you, to the state that you're in, they can do it. If they feel like you're a menace, they're gonna call you something, they're gonna label you something. And the moment they label you, you get enhancements to your sentence. So there are certain things that you have to be mindful of. If the best way to again shut this thing down is for our people to start making better decisions. And I know that's hard, but that to me, that's an easier route than changing the justice system.
Starve the system. I mean, and I agree. I think, and it's all about personal accountability and making better decisions, and trying to find alternative ways to getting into crime, based on it. Because I know economics, sometimes it's the low-hanging fruit, depending on the neighborhood you're in. It's like a man right there can show me how to get $1,000 within 2 days, or I could try to fill his application out, wait for them to call me back, go through the process, get paid $400 next, in the next 3 weeks, rent's coming up. Like, I'm scared, but I need to pay this rent. Like, so
every day I'm hustling.
Right. And it's funny, like I said, I always talk about the way I grew up. I grew up middle class, so my view was like, you got choices, you got alternatives, but if the alternative, certain choices are so close to you, or worse, they're related to you. Like, I've seen this lifestyle my whole life. I can jump right in. Like I know the risk. I've seen, like I got a mental thought of it. Of course, is one thing to know somebody that's going to jail. It's another thing for you to actually have to go to jail. But it's a lifestyle, and I think that's perpetuated as well. So I agree. It does start with personal choices. I do think, sometimes with the sentencing, like you said, each state is different. I talk about, when my license used to be messed up, I did it, but and the difference between New York and like Georgia. Actually, probably like I won't say the North. I'll say New York and like the South, North Carolina down. You get pulled over driving out a license. I've gotten cussed out by the officers in New York, like, get stuff together, get out of here, do right. Like I got real crime to get here. And I won't say they don't have real crime down here, but here they're like, oh, step out of the car, please. You taking a ride. They taking your car. Now the little insurance that you should have been paying or couldn't pay. Now it's skyrocketed because I got to get my car out of impound. Like I got to get insurance, And here I found out because of bad habits. Let me pull Brian in the building. Here in the great state of Georgia, if you didn't know, 2 driving without insurance offenses. Now, check this out. 2 offenses will get you, if I'm trying to regain not my license, but get my car back on the road, I have to pay 6 months in advance.
Wow.
6.
Wow.
I just told you I'm struggling to pay 1 month. No, now because of my infraction, I gotta pay 6 months.
Let's say you're not able to pay that 6 months because you couldn't even pay the 1 month. Let's say you ride dirty again.
Oh God,
what's gonna happen then?
I don't even know. I
You're going to jail. You're going to jail.
Yeah, you're going to jail. Yeah.
So let me just say this. There are these little things like this that keep you in the system, right? Yeah. This is just getting you in the system. Let's get you primed. Yeah. We're going to get you primed. We're going to put you behind. We're going to make you desperate. We're going to see what kind of decisions you're going to make at this
point. That's good.
Right?
Wow.
And now, what's going to be your influence at this point?
Right.
Because you got to feed your family.
Right.
And we know you're trying to do this, but you know what? We got our thumb on you already.
Right.
Yeah. And so we're not going to try to help you we're not going to try to understand. Like, why can't you pay this? It's not like you're out there knocking people upside the head. It's not like you're trying to be, what can we do to help you to get in a better position? Should be the question, right? That should be what the system is looking at. Okay, how can we help this person that's struggling to be better? There's these jobs out here we can't fill. Young man, let me help you get this job, right?
Yeah.
Let's do this. Like, what kind of person are you? What kind of skill set do you need? Did you finish your education? Can we help you with your education? Have you ever considered getting into school? Because see, a lot of times people only do what they know what to do. A lot of times, if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, you're not going to do anything different.
Yeah.
You're going to keep doing and running through the same cycles that you've been running through because that's all you know.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times, and even out of my own mouth, I heard this, but this all I know.
Right.
that
you said out of your own mouth. You said
out my own mouth. That's all I know. And the one thing that we have to realize is this is not all we have to know.
Right.
And so as we start to recognize people are struggling, this isn't all they have to know. They don't always have to know struggle. They can know something different. But sometimes the people who make it to that next level need to be willing to sacrifice a part of that level for other people so they can learn it, so they can see it. Like for someone like yourself who's like, okay, if this is what's happening, I got these, tickets for basically license stuff, right?
Right.
Then it's like, okay, wait a minute. I made some bad choices.
Right.
But I ain't a criminal.
Right.
But guess what? The system sees you as a criminal.
Right.
And they don't see it as bad choices. They see you as a bad apple, bad seed, bad whatever, by whatever they're going to tie to you so they can justify putting your butt in jail.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. And then that's where we start getting these numbers and those are the things those type of things can be fought against.
Right.
But we have to remember that the biggest part of the system is the people.
Right.
And if we can begin to help the people stay out of prison and jails and all these other things and start making better decisions, or even you made a bad decision, let's have an intervention, you know, for some people like you who have these license things.
Yeah.
We can do an intervention. I mean, heck, people who get caught for drunk driving get out.
Right.
And so that's you know, people who are drunk get out and get out. And how many times do we hear that they end up killing somebody?
Right.
They're treated a lot different than most crimes. And these are one of the, you know, the more kind of, to me, more, I don't want to say heinous, but
no, I get it.
That crime is really one that should be looked at different, right?
Right.
That you should, but there's these interventions and you give these people chances and chances.
Right.
And then they kill somebody.
Right. Exactly.
But a person who can't pay 6 months worth of insurance or whatever.
Right.
Your butt's going to jail. You can't pay, going to jail.
You can't go in jail. Yeah. Go in jail. Then I'm calling old timers. I'm calling old timers. Say, hey, Thomas, I need to do something. I need to shift. I need to shift.
Here's what you have to do.
Right. Anyway. What's up, Brian? Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Oh man. Oh,
good day, BOL family.
Yes, indeed. Before you start,
I was in it.
It's funny that you say about the whole drunk driving thing, because you know, without the license, I was on probation, and I was actually literally talking to the probation officer. This is North Carolina. I was talking to the probation officer. I was like, "Yo, is there any way for me to get a temporary license so that I can function, like, and work, and you know, so I can pay these things off and make things right?" Literally, and it's funny that you say that. She was like, "The only people that get temporary licenses are DUIs." She was like, if this was a drunk driving issue, oh yeah, we can get you a temporary license. I was like, I just stood there like, and she had to verify. She's like, I know it's not fair. Like this is not fair. Like how's that right? Like mine is financial. They literally, like you said, literally turned their car into a weapon. But because I can't pay, I can't pay. like what, you know, like how do we get out of this cycle?
But a drunk driver can pay.
Right. See?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. You have to be able to feed the machine.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
It's crazy. So, you know, I'm going to tell you something that's kind of interesting when you go state to state. So there was a time back in the 90s. I was selling drugs, and I was going to Nebraska and from California, and you know, I'm a little dumb kid, didn't know any better. I had a layover in Las Vegas. The name that was on my ticket was the dumbest name. Anyways, I didn't make the ticket, but it was just dumb. So they're calling me for my flight, and I'm like, I don't even know they're calling me because I don't even know this name, right? But I'm hitting the slot machines up, and I'm hitting them. It was back when they had the silver dollars. I got 2 big old tubs full of silver dollars. I'm like, I'm hitting them. And I was like, oh, I got to go get my plane. So I go turn these silver dollars in. I come to my plane. They're like, are you such and such? Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. They're like, all right, cool. And so I get on the plane. I'm high. I got weed on me, you know. And I'm just a little weed, personal stash. It wasn't I get to Nebraska, grab my bag. As soon as I turn around, the FBI, the police, and everybody there, like a bunch of them just kind of rushed me. I got strip searched in the airport bathroom just to make sure. They arrested me, took me downtown, and the guy's filling out the report. He's like, man, what is that weed? It's strong. I was like, man, that's that chronic. Can I have it back? Good. Yeah, and I was like, man, can I have it back? Like, no. Anyways, I gave him a false name, right? And you know, because I didn't, they took me to jail. So they arrested me for false information and gave me a ticket for the weed.
Okay.
I literally bailed out because with the money that was in my pocket.
Right.
So they just let me bail out. And the reality, the weed was the worst thing. Like I was arrested for false information, but the weed I had to pay $100 fine for.
Right.
And but I was able to bail out right then. So the money was like, if I didn't have the money, I would go to jail. But because I had the money in my pocket, they were like, you can bail out right here.
Right.
And I'm like, that's crazy. Like you're gonna arrest me for false information, give me a ticket, a $100 ticket for weed, and let me bail out.
Right.
All in the same motion. Like but it was about the money at that time.
Yeah.
About the money.
You know,
and they had you documented.
Right. They had me documented. And they know, I mean, of course, someone said something, and I think it could have been my dumbness in Las Vegas smelling like weed and all this other stuff, where they were like, man, check this dude out when he gets to his final destination, right?
Yeah.
Because for years I was like, man, someone done ratted me out. How did they know I was going to be there? And then one day I just woke up and I was like, oh, you dumb. I don't know why we think we get away with stuff like we you know, it's crazy when you start thinking I'm getting away with this crime. They don't really know. They ain't look, man, you stupid. Everybody can see it, you know. Right. I'm gonna roll around, and whenever I did something even stupider, I'm just young and dumb with money. Okay, so for Christmas, I'm buying Christmas gifts at Wilson Suede and Leather for everybody, but I just want to clown. I walk in there with a pocket full of $5 bills and pay for $1,000 worth of stuff for just $5 bills. Wow! Because I thought it was kind of cool that I had that much money, right? $5 bills. What do you think the other person was saying? Man, you just broke your piggy bank. It was like, man, this idiot. Right. I want people who do crime to actually hear this, and I'm not knocking you. Like I did my own stupid stuff, right? But I want you to realize, if you ever been arrested, you're not that good at crime. Stop. Oh, it's if you've ever been caught, then you're not really that good. Try something else. You might be really good at doing life the right way, but you're not giving yourself a chance.
Right.
And it's important to see like this. Okay, so one of my good friends who's a supporter of BOL, hooked me up to watch BMF.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Pushed me to watch BMF.
Right.
Man, BMF made me so upset. I watched the whole full season. It made me so upset. Right.
Really?
The first season. And because it was like, it took me right back to that space.
I knew it. I knew it.
I wasn't trying to say nothing.
I knew it was.
I knew some people would know. But so anyways, as I'm watching it, I'm like, man, y'all stupid. You're sitting up here putting your life at risk,
right?
Getting shot. But you know, the whole first season, they really didn't make no money. Right. They did all these moves. They came up and they lost. They got jacked. You can't trust this person. You can't trust that. Everybody was about themselves, and you know, like I'm trying to build this family, but you know, we can't believe, you know, this person and this person in my crew is working for this person, and this person's trying to get shot, and this is happening. And I shoot this person. Now I got to worry about this person. The police are on me. The police who are on my team is no longer. If you ain't watched it by now, I'm sorry. I just spoiled a little bit about it. But my point about saying that is, man, that's a whole lot of work in a lifestyle that doesn't really produce. No. And even if it does produce, if you ever get caught, is the value of getting caught and having to spend time in prison worth the amount of money you made, right? Just because you can say I have a name, a rep, or whatever, is it worth it? Listen, if you ever get caught doing something, you're not that good at it. Stop. That's just my point. Try something new. Find somebody else that can help to move things forward. And so I just, you know, when we talk about this justice system, like I can go in about this justice system in many different ways, different angles. I mean, I've sat back and thought about just the wildness. the other day I was thinking about, like, we were a bunch of kids just doing something.
Right.
When you have a bunch of kids doing something and we're making money, we feel like we're a little successful at it.
Right. Right.
We're going to keep trying. Right. We were never on the level of Kingpin, of some of the things that I like that you'll see on TV where people are moving hundreds of keys and all these other things, right?
Right.
And it was so interesting to see how we're treated on the same level as, bigger people who would move tons of as kids, right? We got it was crazy. And that you can literally lose your life just for doing something because you're out there making money.
Right. Right.
And I'm not justifying what we did. It was wrong.
Right.
It was wrong. But the times and sentences never fit. I mean, we were early 20s kids. Right. I wrote this last night about some parts of the system where the way we treat our youth and sentencing our youth, we forget that our kids are just learning how to live this life. They're just learning. They came into this world. They're starting to learn how to walk and learn how to do these things. And 15 years into their life, they don't got it. We already know that. But we start to treat them a certain way within the criminal justice system that continues this thing on. And one of the terms that was brought up was career criminal. And I wrote about this just last night about career criminal. When you think of a career is something that someone aspires to have, to elevate, to move up their life. When we think about career, we never think about the criminal lifestyle. We think about this career that's going to help me advance my life and push things forward, right?
Right.
But if we tie career criminal to somebody, the language and the terms that we're using now create a bias within the people that get to serve these kids.
Yeah.
Because now you're starting to look at the research that's been done behind career criminals. If you're this age, then more than likely you're going to go to jail and prison, and you're going to continue to advance this cycle and everything else. Right. So let's say you're 15, you commit a crime. Yeah. Now, statistically, you're about 50% chance you're going to go to the next level, right? 41 to 50% of chance that you're going to go from juvenile to adult, right? That adult level. Now, if you've had a parent or somebody else, or you're in a single parent household, or you come from a poor neighborhood, those statistics go up.
Right.
So there's a higher and greater chance that you're going to be there. So in my mind, you're just going to be a career criminal anyways. I'm going to treat you that way.
Right. That's good.
And so those parts of the system are the things that do not get factored into the reason why kids do not elevate from the point of a juvenile offense to avoid an adult offense. There's nothing that's helping this child in this situation to elevate their mindset, to really help them to improve and mature in the right way. This kid is not mature yet, 15 years old. I mean, any parents out there who have had a 15-year-old before know that they make decisions that make you go, what in the world are you thinking?
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So you think that kid is all of a sudden going to start making better decisions? Their desire is to make better decisions, but their environment is also influencing them. And so when we look at these social environments that continue to, perpetuate these cycles, there's a point where we have to break it off, and we have to start to say, this is still a kid. How do we help this kid get to a certain point? What are you going to do? Take them now, you put them in juvenile, they have this juvenile record. Now they have a juvenile probation officer. They have these juvenile things that they have to focus on. And now we're going to say, you go to school and you have to do better in school. And then have you ever been to a high school in the inner city? It's a wreck, especially there in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Now you're going to put them back in this environment and expect them to be successful when no one's helping them navigate the system. And again, I'm on a soapbox, so here we go. When I was in high school, if someone would have showed me how to get to college, I probably would have made it to college. No one ever taught me the pathway of what I need to do to get to college. They showed me colleges. They took me on a college tour, but no one's ever told me this is how you do it. These grades right here is how you make it to college. get good grades does not guarantee you go to college. Simple as that. Because there's a process to also get into the college. I read this thing earlier on social media this week where this young lady has a 4.1 grade point average and got denied access to colleges because of her SAT scores. Right. Wow. And it's like she's making, these videos on TikTok to talk about it. But the reality is there's a whole bunch of mess in our system. And if we, as African Americans, we can't say that there's no opportunities. There's plenty of opportunities. It's just a lot of times we don't know how to access those opportunities, and we don't find people teaching us the way. What we do find is people will teach us how to be criminal minded. And that's the important part, is that we have to realize that being criminal minded within our community is a rite of passage sometimes. And if you go to school and you end up being smart, people talk about you. So there's a lot of just different things. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me go put Dr. Rollins and then we'll get past it. And he said, facts. I only thought you get a job after high school, and that's what I thought I'd do until my school counselor pushed me and helped me with college applications. True indeed. True indeed. I think that that intervention when you're younger is, one of our biggest boosts, to helping guide us to the right place or the right direction. All right. So we've been talking for a minute. Brian A. McCrory in the building. Welcome again. What's your thoughts on what you've been hearing thus far?
I mean, I can't debate anything that Thomas has stated. I concur. For me, it's just, I don't know what the question is. If the original question is, what do we do to change the system? That's a profound question.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Changing the system is, we can show commercials from 1979. We can show programs from 1979 that would be relevant today. So we're talking about changing the system, right? We can go back to 1950 and talk about how things were. When you talk about changing the system, you have to change the players within the system. And so far, those players have not been changed. Same people that were in charge 100 years ago are in charge today.
That's what he said. Yeah, 100%. Right?
Yeah. Oh, he did say that. Okay.
No, I mean he didn't say exactly like that, but
in so many words.
Yeah, when we started talking about it, he said first we need to change the political system. He said it starts with the politicians. Yeah, to change it. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I mean it wrong.
Well, and my thing is, I'm not sure it starts with the politicians. I like what Thomas was saying later on. About tapping into the mindset of young people as they're growing, as they're being nurtured. We've got to do more work at home. What in most cases, what makes a gangster a gangster? He was groomed by an old head. Right. It's the information being poured into young people. The system, it was designed. I mean, you think about it from an adolescent perspective. Minority children are 4 times likely to be detained than the quote unquote non-minority young people. When it comes to youth detainment, in the youth facilities and all of that, it's 4 times the rate. So, and the retention is going to be longer, right? We've had all the conversations about privileged youth and all that, and 2 people getting in trouble for the same thing. One person is considered a career criminal. The other person is considered to have made an error in judgment, right? 2 16-year-olds for the same crime. One is white, one's black. One's a career criminal or even a predator. If it's the 90s, you talked about the 90s. Super predators is what they call them, right? So there's a conscious effort to, as Lisa said earlier, to keep the man down. it's not it's not a fair system. It's an unfair system. So the work has to be done within the community, right?
Right.
There's a reason why they took the baseball fields away. There's a reason why they took the basketball courts out of the hood. There's a reason why YMCA's began to diminish across the country. The CYO, you know.
So
yeah.
Pause on that for a second. So, you know, were there a lot of YMCA? Have they close? Because I know the closest one from where I'm at is all the way in the city. Like it's a distance. Like to date, I've never lived within any range of a YMCA. And when I was like, oh look, a YMCA, those things still around. You know, like
they still have some, you know, in the neighborhoods, in the Atlanta.
See them so
right. So you know, they're around. You just but you got to be in the right city. You know, So I lived in Lakewood in Atlanta, and you know, there's a pretty much the same time I moved into the neighborhood, they opened a brand new YMCA there.
Wow.
And you know, and it's a great, you know, space and place, but you know, again, like Brian's saying, there's so many other things.
So many. And it's difficult. You know, isn't it amazing how challenging it is to get funding for certain things, but not for others? Right. So what do you have to do? What you really have to do is get your arms around community development projects. That's what you have to do. I mean, it's what Thomas is doing now. It's what we try to do in the church. It's what we try to do with non-for-profits. You know, it's amazing how there's so much money available, but getting access to it is the challenge.
Right.
Remember the faith-based initiative back in the 90s?
Yeah.
Right. And I don't want to go into a non-for-profit dialogue. I'm just saying that we have to change the conversation within the inner city.
Right.
And the challenge with that is, who's going to say it? Who's going to talk? Who's going to open up their mouth and say something? The people that are saying something, they're already doing it. The question is, how is it resonating within the community? Right. You said it, you know, if you get caught, if you're getting arrested, you're not good at crime. Yeah. So who's telling them that besides Thomas? Right. Because for some, it's a badge of honor.
Right.
To get locked up. Oh, I did time. I was at IYC. I was in Joliet. I was in Pontiac. When I was coming up, those were the places. And it was a badge of honor because now you're validated as a gangster.
Right.
In certain demographics, that, to your point earlier, you said that's all I know. That's all they know. In certain demographics, that's all they know. That's what they've been bred to believe. And so you have to break that cycle. And it's not an easy thing to do. But I will tell you that the numbers have been reduced. You know, the number of people getting incarcerated from our communities has been greatly reduced. It's still by far exceeding that of our counterparts. But the numbers have absolutely come down. So we're having an impact. We just have to have a deeper and broader impact, and keep working at it. Don't give up the fight because it is impacting the community.
Right.
Something is working.
I don't knock people who go through that process, because there's a lot of influences that influences that keep them going on that pathway. But I do believe what Brian was saying, as far as people are making changes, people are starting to see that, this isn't the way, but then they also have to have something better that can help them to, stabilize their life. And, with work, with access to opportunities, a lot of times we're just talking access here.
Yeah.
There's people who don't understand that you can still access change and new opportunities if you be the change you want to see a lot of times.
Right.
And, because I have a felony, a lot of times people say, well, I can't do such and such, or I can't do this. Well, what can you do? That's what we need to start changing the narrative to, is what can you do?
Yeah.
Instead of saying what I can't do, what can you do? And
Bro,
what are you willing to do?
I've ever met. Some of the most gifted people, and I hate to cut you off, Thomas, but you speak the truth that hit me in an emotional space. Some of the most gifted people I've ever met were felons. You know, natural skills, God-given talents were felons. And what happened is they just poured their energy they pushed it in the wrong direction. The gifts are there. The Bible talks about gifts that come without repentance. We are gifted individuals, man. And the question is, what are you doing with your gift? Are you being a good manager of your gift? Stewardship is critical. We do the wrong things with the gifts that we have. And what happens is we get the pride of being successful short term and think we're king of the hill until you get caught. Only one of two things is going to happen. You're going to die or you're going to get arrested. It's really just that simple. Nobody retires from crime.
Yeah. But you know, I've said this out of my own mouth. There's only three things that's going to happen to me here. I'm going to be dead, I'm going to be in prison, or I'm going to make it.
Right.
But the chances were death or prison were, you know, more of an opportunity than making it through the criminal lifestyle. Because I couldn't see myself being able to do something that would provide for my family or provide for me, that would give me safety. You know, because a part of the reason why I couldn't see it is so many people talk down to it. Man, there's so many people out there with bachelor degrees that don't have jobs. There's so many people that go to school that don't have, you know, whatever. And you know, the narrative that's out there, if you hear this and you're like, okay, I believe this because my peers are saying it, right? These are people that I trust. They don't know any better. And then there are people out there that have bachelor's degrees that are struggling. But you know what? We don't teach our people, again, you get a degree, here's what you need to do with it. We just tell them, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, go to college, and then you know, what you do. And then once you finish this, then it's all gravy. But we don't tell people that it's not all gravy.
No, they need to plan.
You got to work.
Yeah.
You got to put work in, and you got to be creative. So go ahead, Brian. You back?
Yeah. When I so having been homeless, all I did was look around. When I was in a shelter, when I ran out of money, ran out of resources, and was in a shelter, all I did was look around. I looked at the people driving their cars. I looked at the people walking into their homes. And then I looked at my situation.
Right.
And all I knew is I can't stay here.
Right.
I can't stay here. And I always knew I didn't want to go to jail. I wasn't built for prison. I always knew that. I'm 5'8".
Right.
Seriously.
Okay, I'm not built for it either. So I don't care how big you are.
Listen to me. I'm not saying I couldn't survive.
Right.
I'm saying in my mind, I already told myself I don't want to be in anybody's jail. Right. So that was a decision I made early in life, with all the mistakes that I have made, but I never, ever wanted to go to jail.
Right.
Ever. I knew that if I went to jail, I'd die.
Wow.
Because somebody would come at me and I would either kill them or they would kill me. It's just that simple. Because you're not taking me. You know, that's it. That's all it is.
Take me.
So for me, you know, I was only gonna go so far.
Right.
That's it. Right.
Wow.
But looking around, that's what it was for me. But again, I go back to the things that my mother said to me, the things that I was raised with. My mother never raised us to be criminals. She never raised us to break the law. And when it came to getting out there in those streets, we had to come home or we needed to find another home.
Wow.
And there was a real sense of fear. And that fear has dissipated.
Gotcha.
That level of respect, adoration for parents, you know, somewhere in the 80s, 90s, we became friends with our children. And there was a loss of a sense of respect for parents, for adults. That's real. And it's even worse now. parents don't have control or authority over their children in far too many cases. So let me get back to what I was saying. I looked around and I'm like, you know what? I can't stay here. So I just started working. I worked one job. That job was helping, but it wasn't getting me out. So I had to make more money. So I got another job. That job got me out, but it wouldn't sustain me. So I got a third job. I was working 3 jobs, man. Right? Just jobs. Trying to make ends meet. Yeah, you got 15 jobs, brother. And then I realized I'm killing myself. I can't live like this working 3 jobs. Right. I got to have one job that can handle all
one good job. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's just what it was. It was just it's climbing the ladder, just making sure today is better than yesterday. You know. And I think that what happens far too often, and we deal with it all the time, is we fall back into a rut when we try to fix something and then something else breaks. I'm pressing my way. You know, I got out of prison and somebody reminded me that I was a felon.
Right.
I may as well keep being a felon then.
Right. Or I got rejected a couple times.
So let me go on back to doing what I know how to do. It's all I know.
That's all I know.
Learn something else. Right. Listen, man, I hated math. Me and math had a problem. Not that I couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it.
Right.
And today I'm an engineer.
Right.
Why? Because it met my needs.
Yeah.
I found a sense of purpose in it. That's what it was. So what we have to do is change the dialogue, change the conversation from making money to finding purpose. Yeah. Right? When you can instill purpose in people, people will get up and move. When people begin to believe they have purpose and they understand their sense of purpose, one of the greatest downfalls in our community is people not knowing what they want to do with themselves.
Right, 100%.
That's real talk. You get into trouble because you don't have a plan, you don't have a strategy. So we have to begin to instill that, and it's got to be beyond. Ooh, you're going to be a police officer when you grow up, or you're going to be a doctor, or you're going to be a lawyer.
Right.
We don't understand our why. Because if you tell me I'm going to be a doctor, but I fail biology, well, I ain't gonna do
Right.
But I can still do it.
Yeah.
You can still do it. Yeah. Absolutely. Failing biology doesn't mean you're disqualified.
Right.
You got to figure out how to learn. Yeah, I'm saying. So we have to put more work into those areas, understanding our why and overcoming frustration. It's that emotional, mental, downtrodden mindset. We have to overcome those things, and we'll be a whole lot more successful with our young people. Yeah, money follows purpose. Money always follows purpose.
That you said as far as purpose. Purpose is one of those things. I think a lot of times people are looking for that peace. So if we really break it down, everyone is generally looking for is peace. And where we find that peace at is what we really pour ourselves into. If we find that, that we can trust the process in something, we'll pour more into it because it feels like I find more hope. I find more
trust the process.
Trust the process.
And you want peace, get in a process.
Right. And that's the important part. People right now that are impacted by the justice system are in a process.
Right.
That they trust. They just don't see the outcome being the way that it ends up. And a lot of times they make the decision, and the decision ends up, the one thing when they're looking at for peace ends up being the disruption to that peace, and they have to try to find their way back. There has to be another process that's created so that people can follow that process and know that I'm affirmed within this process also, that this process can lead me to a purpose. Because sometimes, when I was selling drugs, I felt like that was my purpose, you know, and because I couldn't see anything else.
That's all I know.
But you had a plan.
I didn't even have a plan. I was just doing something.
Now you had a plan because you knew how to measure, you knew how to count.
Right. But again, that was a part of the process of knowing. I know this process. This is easy, right? Yeah. I know this process. I know. Again, I talk about some of the things that we did, the advanced chemistry it took and everything else. It wasn't really, it was just crazy. Anyways, my point is,
yeah, he messed around and somebody did that.
Take point. Yeah, I took one part of this, and then I put this part right here, and then we lit it up like this.
This is what I'll say.
Let me finish your point real quick, Brian.
You talk about peace, Thomas.
Yeah.
What I've learned, and you talk about peace and you talk about process.
Right.
So what you're really saying is you can't have peace without order.
Well, what is order though? See,
right.
to one, their order is, I'm going to keep people who are trying to bully me off of me by I'm not going to go to school and be smart. That's a part of my process, because if I do, then everybody's going to talk about me. They're going to make me feel like I'm less than. They're not going to be accepting of me. I'm going to be rejected within my neighborhood. I'm going to start looking like a sellout and feeling like a sellout. And the reality is we have to create a process where people, that's the norm. Well, we can go to our public schools within the inner city and people take pride in the schools, not feel the pride that they take is like who can race to the lowest, the fastest, right?
Right.
And so we can't keep that cycle going. We have to begin to move forward. You said something earlier that from back in the day, I remember what people used to say. The parents now want to be friends with their kids. I remember back in the day, because the way the generations before us used to parent us, we used, I've heard so many people say, when I have my own kids, I'm gonna be friends with them.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do this. They're not gonna be. I'm not gonna be this way. And they stuck to their word.
Yeah. Right.
And so we have a generation now, generations coming afterwards that are lost, that don't understand the discipline. We have rules and laws that are changing, that if you even think about treating your child like you did back in the 70s, there's going to be a big problems for you and your family.
Right.
And there's a lot of times where when you start thinking about how it works out these days, a lot of the kids who were saying, I'm not going to do this to my kids, are the ones making the rules and the laws and influencing these rules and laws today, where we can't even discipline our kids in a certain way. Yes. And so we have to recognize that there's a lot of things that influence the people who are heading toward the justice system. What we cannot do is we cannot continue as people who understand these things, continue to perpetuate that language and that school of thought toward people. We have to be able to challenge that thought and that school of thought. We can't be the ones being like, you little hoodlum, you belong in jail, you belong in prison.
Think about what you just said. Because when I said order and you started talking about the peer pressure and people talking about your school and all of that, what we have to understand is the definition of order, so that we can understand what disorder looks like.
Right. Well,
because all that other behavior you're talking about is disorder.
But all I'm saying is, to them, it is, but to them, that's order. To people who are woke, I'm just kidding. To people who are aware,
preacher brother, let us know
that we see that as disorder now. We understand the disorder of the system. We understand the disorder of these things. We hadn't always understood the disorder.
Right. And that's that's my point. It's like we have to start that conversation earlier so that people understand what disorder looks like and have confidence in the truth of disorderly behavior. Right. Peer pressure is disorder. Bullying is disorder.
Right.
Gang banging is disorder. Right. We define those things as cool.
Right.
But it's disorder.
Be careful when you say we define them, because again, there's certain things systemically, historically, that have fed into these things where we think that's order.
Right.
Well, we think this is the only way.
Right.
And in truth, this is sometimes people ride so hard in those spaces because this feels like the only family that's there for me.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and it's not that, listen, if we can do something different and I could keep my people safe, I would, but this seems like the only way of keeping my people safe.
Right.
And so, again, we can't knock somebody in a lifestyle unless we're in their shoes. But
listen, because,
and I know you're not doing it, but let me say this real quick, because I think that we need the people are just looking for a way. They're trying to find something different. And some people are starting this race, 200 yards behind and trying to catch up. And there's some people who are 10 yards behind trying to catch up. And so we have to look at people who are further behind is like, what can we do to make equity here? What can we do to help with showing that, like,
what we can do? We can tell the truth.
But to them, and again, you gotta be careful with that because they have their truth.
You keep saying you got to be careful, and what I keep hearing is
I'm not saying don't do it, but don't make it to the point where it sounds like we just got to tell the truth, because for them, they are living their truth.
No, listen, what I'm saying to you is you're right. There is the truth and my truth.
Right.
Yeah. And the reality is, you can talk about how you present the messaging, right? Because that's what you're talking about, using wisdom to present the messaging. What I'm saying is make sure the message is true. What I'm saying is we've spent far too much time watering down a message. We are soft today because of all the years of a watery message, becoming too friendly, entertaining stuff that shouldn't be entertained. And I'm not talking about physically accosting your child. I'm not talking about the beat downs. I got them, but that's not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about the order, the structure of the household. I'm talking about giving people real information, real definitions at an earlier age, because truth trumps all that other stuff. And all I'm saying is I'm saying I'm being blatant here. I'm being clear cut. It's black and white for me right now in this conversation. But how we go deliver this message, the reality is that's wrong. And I don't care how you look at it. Wrong is wrong. That's not proper behavior.
Right.
We can say, well, you really shouldn't do this because all I'm saying is whatever you do, people need to know this is wrong. And there's no good end to this. And that message has to be pushed into the mind and hearts of adults who are rearing children. Right? Because you can communicate with a child from conception. Right. I talk to my babies through the belly. Right. Indeed. And then that conversation continues. And I'm saying what I love about the scripture that says train up a child in the way that they should go so that when they get old, they won't depart from it. It doesn't mean you won't fall down. It doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. What it means is what's really in you, if it's been put in you, at some point, it's going to come to the surface.
Right.
That's
and
what
I agree with you. I mean, I don't sugarcoat, water down, or anything, but I do know the school of thoughts that are out there.
Yeah.
And the way you have to, the adversity that we go through as we start to tell people this truth.
Right.
People are going to back you up with their truth. They're going to come up with excuses. See, one of the things I learned is when a person comes up with an excuse, they come up with a defense right away with it.
Okay.
So for any excuse that you have, there's going to be an immediate defense that you create to go along with that. Therefore, when someone challenges you within your lifestyle, or anything else, you have this other immediate excuse. Instead of listening first, we throw out the excuse.
Right.
And so a lot of times, when we start thinking about the messaging, there's another message that's out there also. So let's use, for example, if I commit a crime and I'm out there committing crimes, and someone goes and they look and they see me commit this crime, and they're like, go and tell on me that I'm committing this crime. Who's wrong? Who's the wrong person?
Who committed the crime.
Committed the crime. Right.
Right. But if we go to our communities, you're a snitch.
Right.
The person who told is wrong.
Right.
And so there's certain messaging out there that we have to begin to understand.
Combat the messaging.
We have to.
But that's what I mean about telling the truth. Right.
So we have to tell the truth, but we also have to recognize that person who is committing the crime also needs support, because if we put them in the system, then we're just feeding the same justice system that's out there. So what we're doing is now we have two people. We have the person doing right who wants to tell, but now we have to, make sure that this person feels affirmed. But then there's this person out here doing this wrong that needs to learn something right, and we have to figure out a way to affirm them. Go ahead.
So I got a crazy thought. I mean, I had a couple, but we're running short on time. So what do you do? And I know, and it's gonna sound funny, but I'm being serious. What do you do with the Ezel of your neighborhood? You know, can we keep it real? I'm just saying. Because we've known we've had Ezels in our midst.
Smokey.
I'm just saying, like, what do you if Ezel takes from somebody, you say something, like, how do we begin to change to get the Ezels? Because I don't think it wasn't a drug thing. He just takes stuff. He just was still,
It was a drug thing.
That was a drug thing.
You think it's a drug? Okay.
It was absolutely a drug thing.
I got to feed my habit.
Right.
I'm finding anything of value to feed my habit.
Yeah. So I'm being honest.
And that's the thing. It's getting delivered from the addiction. Right. But we have to make sure we understand what we're really addicted to. Sometimes drug addiction is just a deep-rooted issue that gets played out that way. Right. I'm saying addiction. You can be. I found out that I'm an addict. Okay. I'm an addict. I'm an extremist.
Okay.
When I find something I like, I go so far into it. Like, have you seen my collection of Dallas Cowboys stuff? Right.
Yeah.
You don't think that's an addiction? I'm not on the field. I don't have anything vested except this stuff here. Right. There's an addiction. You can call it what you want, but the reality is extremism is addiction.
Right. I got what you're saying.
Anybody gonna disagree? So what I'm saying, we got to take a real good look at how the mind works,
right?
And start dealing with that kind of stuff so that we can redirect the energy.
Yeah.
Right. We can start talking about the pros and cons of extremism and this type of behavior and all of that. When I first learned how to bowl, I went from bowling once a week to bowling 5 nights a week. I was addicted.
Right.
I became the most improved bowler. I went from a 98 to a 198 average in a single season.
Wow.
Let me ask you about your addictions, though. But do they cause problems to your life?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Addiction.
That's the part right there. When we start to look at addictions that cause problems to people's lives, and we have to really recognize that. I'm gonna just say this too, because Brian's like, tell the truth, and this is the truth. To me, a lot of this has to do with, and I know a lot of people don't believe in Jesus, but I do, and it's really when we start to take the truth out of things. To me, when we start looking at biblical changes and different other things, there are things that we have to see. My life was changed and transformed because of beginning to know the truth of the gospel. We've watered down the gospel to a white man's religion where no one's ever studied for themselves. We have this excuse where, this Bible is to try to keep people down and it's everything else, but no one has ever studied that says that has ever really truly studied for themselves. Right. They have really, really looked into it. So the excuse is I'm going to believe what other people tell me so I don't have to be accountable for myself. Accountability for ourselves is so much more important than anything else we can do. It's not the responsibility of other people to change your life. It's your responsibility, it's your accountability, and it's up to you to begin to make the better decisions. And as we start to look at the system and changing the system or even people, accountability within ourselves is very important. Challenging ourselves before we're willing to challenge anybody else is important, because a lot of times we'll challenge a system that we think is for us when it's not. We already know it's not for us. We know this. So why are we challenging a system that's not for us or constantly saying the same things over and over again? Where's your accountability? We already know that they're wrong, but what about me and my accountability? Right. Where can I improve? Where can I continue to move myself forward? Because if I want to see,
you hear what he said? Now you know when I say it's time to go outside and poop.
That's on you.
He's talking to Cooper. That's on you.
But that's so we could talk, and I didn't even get to the school to prison pipeline, but we'll talk about.
Oh no, we'll dig into it. We'll part two that. We'll parlay that.
See, system, because you're talking about changing a system, but there's a term, school to prison pipeline,
right,
which is systemic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There is an infrastructure.
So many things feed into that, and I'm not even going to jump into it. But
we're gonna get into that tomorrow. Maybe some of that on Freestyle Friday. We'll
now we can't freestyle that. It's too serious.
We can't freestyle.
Yeah,
too serious? Okay.
We got to have a show for that.
That's next Thursday.
Next Thursday. Part 2.
Or get a cameo from Thomas on Monday.
Right.
Just saying. Just saying.
Day after Resurrection Sunday. Let's resurrect the people.
Oh no, my bad. Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
So listen, we appreciate you guys for being here, rocking with us. Another edition of the Brothers of Legacy. I do want to get into at one point talk about vision as well, because I feel like people have lacked their direction. I think if you have a direction you go in, a vision, it changes things significantly. So we want to get into that as well. All right. So again, appreciate you guys for rocking with us, hanging with us. Another episode of the Brothers of Legacy. Make sure you are staying connected. Join our text community. Text LWN to 84576. Text LWN to 84576. I need y'all to do me a favor, and I'm gonna do it too. I need y'all to do me a favor. Appreciate it, Mama Corey. I need you to go through your contact list and send out at least 3 texts or texts. Texas. Text 3 people, and share this broadcast and the text link so they can be a part of what we have going on. 3 people. 3. And all my people in the background that they don't really say much. You cool. I appreciate you being there because I see the numbers. I see you comments. We got more people watching in the background. And I'm cool with that. You ain't got to even say nothing. What up, Philip? Good morning. And cousin Shirley. So do that for me. Spread the word. Grow our broadcast. Let everybody know that the brothers are on. I appreciate you for being here watching with us consistently and continually. Real talk. And we look forward to seeing you. What's that?
What?
You have to give credit to Richard Fay and his joke.
Hold on.
Someone said I should become a monk, but I couldn't get the habit.
I saw that. I think if I read it, I was like, I think that went over my head. All right. At least y'all got it.
You have to know what a habit is.
Right.
A habit is the robe.
The robe
that they wear.
All right, break down the joke. I know it ruins the joke, but I got it now, Richard. I got it now. Good job, Rich. Good job.
Nice one.
Sean had a comment and it was in context when he said "quiet snitch."
The video, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That was funny.
All right. So again, make sure you share. And we appreciate you guys for being here and always supporting. As always.
Y'all know what's funny? It never dawned on me. Now y'all see Philip on there, right?
Yes.
That's my cousin, man. Like, cousin for real. Spending the night at each other's house, fighting with his brother, getting in trouble.
Right.
It never dawned on me, like his mother's my great aunt. Which makes him my mother's first cousin.
Wow.
He's my generation, but he's my mom's first cousin. So when he said, "What's up, cuz?" He like, my mom is his cuz. I'm like
the second.
Yeah, I'm on the second level. That bothers me a little bit, man. It's my generation. Are you gonna holler at mom talking about "What's up, cuz"? No, we good.
Right.
Right? Because we're so used to saying auntie, your generation says auntie, but he can't say auntie to my mom. That's his cousin. Right. Somehow that just don't sit right with me. I'm still working that out, Philip. I promise, man.
It's been a long time. It's a lot of years.
Yeah,
You need
I'm
to
still
go and get
working
over that. Get over that. So appreciate you guys. Make sure you again share. We look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Same time, same channel. 988. If you or someone you love is having a mental health crisis, dial 988 to speak to a professional. Hang out with us tomorrow. And know that we love you. Jesus loves you more. I think all hearts and minds are clear. We see you tomorrow. Peace out.